You're still watching Daybreak. We're live from our studio here in Abuja. Now, let's look at what the papers, both local and international, are saying. And we have Dr. Constance Ikoku here this morning to lead us.
Good morning, Andy. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Nkechi, how are you guys?
Yeah. Great.
Okay, to look at the papers this morning, with us we have Chuks Akunna. He's the Executive Director of Authority newspaper. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, all of you.
Hello there.
Good morning, Chuks.
Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. Tinubu launched his bid to raise oil output by 1 million barrels in 12 months. Q3 2024 UBA crosses 30 trillion in total assets, PBT up by 20% to 603 billion naira. PDP replies Ganduje to capture Ondo Guba poll is to repeat events of 1983 and 1962. That doesn't sound savory at all. President resumes after 2-week working leave. Cabinet reshuffle may happen soon. The president came back yesterday and he had marathon meetings with the National Security Advisor, Chief of Defense Staff, among others. There's suspicion the cabinet reshuffle may happen soon. In a matter of days, it's been reported. While there's little interest in speculation right now, if cabinet reshuffle will happen, the president needs to get on with it. There's a lot at stake, and people are yearning for change. Chuks.
Exactly. The truth is that if you take sample the opinion of a cross-section of Nigerians, many of the opinion that the president's team, very few of them have really discharged their duties creditably. And this came up, I think, during the president's first year anniversary celebrations, where ministers were asked to come deliver their scorecards. And if you watched the event, you see that several ministers could not, they just came to rule out their mandate, but failed to actually deliver on, said anything tangible on what they've been able to achieve. Apart from a handful of ministers, it's many Nigerians agreed that several ministers, in the cabinet of President Tinubu were just appointed to fulfill political righteousness. And as things stand, the president is under pressure from a cross-section, many Nigerians, to deliver on his mandate, of renewed hope.
Right, let's look at Daily Trust. Dangote withdraws 100 billion suit against NNPCL, others over import licenses. Bandits kill travelers, abduct others in Zamfara. Push for Damagun's tenure extension intensifies. That's PDP crisis. Is not about to end, or it's not coming to a close yet. How we recovered consignment of drugs from Senator Ashiru's house, NDLEA. So the Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency raided the senator's house in Lore, Kwara State and found drugs. Senator Oyedele Ashiru himself, says that NDLA is corrupt and compromised. So here we go again, accusation and counter-accusation. Drugs found at his house, but he says that the agency is actually a corrupt one. Chuks, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, my offer, I was raised in Kwara State, so each time offer is mentioned, I have this sense of nostalgia. If you recall, a few weeks ago, robbery suspects in the famous offer robbery incident a few years ago were sentenced to death. But Senator Ashiru is a senator representing Kwara South, and he's a very, very influential senator. Well, I think the problem is when we treat persons with kid gloves, or when we treat persons as sacred cows. Because if you ask me, why is the NDLEA coming up with this revelation now? And you see, the burden of proof is now on the NDLEA. Had the NDLEA gone to press at the time, or had the NDLEA made it public at the time the so-called aides of Senator Ashiru were arrested, or when the raid was conducted, we wouldn't be in this mess. The NDLEA waited a whole week after Senator Ashiru slammed the narcotics agency, and coming up now to say that they caught some boys. We also remember what happened when the offer incident happened, where they said some of the suspects were linked to former Senate President Bukola Saraki. So a lot of people are taking the NDLEA story with a pinch of salt, not because it's not possible, but because they wasted time. You know, Yoruba say, "Aitite mole ole moloko." If you tarry in catching, if the owner of the farm tarries in catching the thief in his farm, the thief might end up catching him, calling him a thief.
Right. In spite of that, the NDLEA says his house was used, or is being used as a drug joint, both for users and sellers. I think that's a serious allegation for someone who is at the National Assembly.
They say better late than the late. NDLEA came out late with the news based on the exchange back and forth between him and Senator Ashiru. The point is that NDLEA is saying they went to his house and ransacked it, and it is a conduit pipe for drug. And remember, when was it that we discussed the issue of a senator on the floor of the Senate saying that politicians are on drugs and they should be tested? That in fact he can call names, he can cite where they store their drugs in their houses. So this probably gives credence to what that politician was saying, even though of course it's NDLEA saying they have ransacked this guy's house. I don't believe that NDLEA will come and say they didn't get drugs there. I don't think they're accusing, I don't want to believe that they're accusing him falsely. So when you link this up with that accusation of politicians that they should be tested for drugs that they use their houses, it begins to make sense.
Right, definitely begins to make sense, and then you wonder why people are not on trial. Let's look at Daily Sun. Bobrisky enjoyed excessive privileges in prison, according to panel. 38 die as cholera hits Ebonyi and Enugu State. Labour talks tough on minimum wage. So Labour wants the government to take action against states that are yet to pay the minimum wage. They are given a deadline of October 31. I mean, you can't blame Labour leaders on this, but one wonders how it's going to play out. Although some states have offered higher wages. So, for instance, Rivers and Lagos, 85,000 naira, Delta 77 with Ondo. But it far remains that others are lagging behind, Chooks.
Yes, exactly. It's good that several governors, even the neighboring Kogi State, I think the governor offered 72,000 naira. It's good that several governors are walking the talk, in terms of living up to their promise to review minimum wage and pay the minimum wage in their states. But then there also remain several governors who have refused, who have remained defiant, who feel that they cannot pay. But you see, they enjoy all the perks of office. They've not cut down on their limos, on their limousines, the cars in their motorcade. They've not cut down on their foreign trips. But they want workers to bear the brunt for what they're going through. I recently bought half bag of rice actually, 25 kg for 62,000 naira for half bag of rice, and that's nearly the cost, minimum wage for several civil servants in states, even when they've agreed to increase it. So even 82,000 naira, 85,000 naira, 72,000 naira is still a far cry for the Nigerian worker.
It's very little money, and at the end of the day, it doesn't solve any problem for workers. It
doesn't, and Labour is not having it. They've made it clear it's end of October or nothing else. And if you ask me, given the time till end of October is even more than enough time. The lack of implementing this minimum wage in 26 states is just not good enough. It's nice that we're commending all the other states, and I think all the state governors that have not implemented it or have no plan. Or if there's some states that have no plan. Look at Sokoto State. Sokoto State promised to be the first state to implement this. We're not hearing anything from them. And so I think it's good that Labour is coming out to blow tough. However, they should stay on it and stay on all the states to implement this minimum wage. So we don't have people celebrating Christmas with the old minimum wage.
All
Constance,
right.
let me just add something. Here's the thing. Even if you put this minimum wage at 200,000. The thing is that the circumstances in Nigeria now erodes whatever amount of money.
It does.
There's house rent, there's school fees,
Yes.
there's a health problem. So I think both Labour and the government should be looking at a way to bring the cost of living, these things that take money away from people, down. So even when you have a little money, you can still get by.
Right. Okay, let's look at a new Telegraph. Frequent national grid collapse, fueling high cost of production, says man. We have no hand in allocation of slots for Heathrow Airport. UK writes Nigeria Air Peace. And then PMS, Dangote Refinery, records 700 million litre supply shortfall. Reps flay Navy over arbitrary acquisition of foreign platforms. Let's look at the story on the Heathrow Airport. This has been on for a while. The UK is giving reasons why Air Peace is yet to secure those slots into Heathrow Airport. Allegedly, it says the slot requests for summer of 2024 and the winter season of 24/2025 were received late. Air Peace has been advised to apply to Airports Coordinator Limited. I mean, I doubt if many Nigerians believe these reasons. You know, this issue has been outstanding for a long time. Heathrow allocation for Nigerian Airlines is not a new case, and I think many will not believe this. Chooks, what's your take on this?
Yes, when you place this beside the fact that it's one of the most patronized routes in the world, you know, at least from Nigeria, I think Heathrow is the #1 destination, foreign destination for Nigerian travelers. You see, and the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself, but I've yet to see anybody who has loved his neighbor more than himself. You know, and that's why we always talk about charity beginning at home, you know, both in terms of consumption, in terms of patronage. You see that when you see most countries, they put their country first, you know, even when when the Indians took over Airtel, so that most of their generators became Kirloskar, they opted for India-made power plants. We see even when you see the Chinese, when you see the construction companies around Nigeria, see most of their equipment are made in China because they have to repatriate money back home, and that's how you build an economy. So the British, you know, don't think that they would love themselves, Nigerians more than themselves. They know that this is a very, very profitable route, and you know, the longer they keep domestic airlines like Air Peace out of this, you know, the better for them, for their economy, the healthier it is for their economy.
Yeah, definitely there's more that meets the eye, you know, with all this explanation. Yeah. Well, they can make fresh applications then, and let's not have the same excuse by next year. Let's move on to Daily Graphic from Ghana. Speaker's declaration on four MPs Supreme Court ruling binding on Parliament. Citizens South Africa, airspace alarm with a pool of air traffic controllers at 50% of the required complement and outdated or unmaintained equipment, making automated systems, radios and radar fail. There is a huge risk to the safety of passengers. According to reports, Air Traffic and Navigation Service is critically understaffed with air controller fatigue setting in. This is a serious report that should not be taken lightly, Chooks.
Yes, exactly. It's you know, it tells us the state of affairs in our country. On our continent. You see, Nigeria and Ghana, we share similar history. You know, our independence, our struggle for independence, and of course, we're both Anglophone countries. If you look at the issues being raised, you discover that they're very, very serious, like you pointed out. And the earlier, you know, the authorities wade into that, you know, to actually determine the causes or the cause of that, you know, the better for all of us, both in Ghana and Nigeria.
Yeah. India, any thoughts on that? Yeah.
Well, this is well, I remember Ateta saying accident waiting to happen in the match. This is an accident waiting to occur. Yeah.
And especially on when it comes to air, the casualties are usually many.
This is an accident waiting to occur. When you say 50% of traffic controllers are not there, then the equipment
outdated unmaintained.
And you're discussing this. This is an accident waiting to happen. Something has to be done and done fast.
Well, the report is out there, so it follows that they would attend to it. Daily Mirror, Chris Kaba shooting, gun cop cleared. Police officers who killed the driver is found not guilty. Victim's family feel deep pain of injustice and vow to fight on. I mean, this story dominates the headlines in the UK this morning. Let's pull up the Sun.
That's horrible.
It's in front of the Sun papers, the Times, Daily Express. The family is essentially saying that they have not gotten justice. This man was 24-year-old and was shot down. It's a difficult situation because reports say for cops, you know, it was agreed, or the jury found that the intention was not to kill the young man, but he made a decision in a split second. And in difficult situations like that, it could lead to death, and that's what we saw in this case, Ndi.
I don't buy this. You're a trained policeman. I mean, it looks to me like even blackmail, because the Met officers, about 100 of them, even before the jury passed its judgment, had handed down their weapons, and the Met police chief is saying that the thing about controlling police or trying to hold them accountable is not well done. It works against them. But how about the people? Yeah, the young man was I don't know what
he was trying to run away.
He was going back and forth, hitting their cars. But you could have shot somewhere, not his forehead, for God's sake. Why would you shoot why would you shoot to kill? I thought the police were trained over there, you know, to shoot to maim or to shoot to stop, but not shoot to kill. And in that instance, even if you are saying, okay, we don't want to give him a long sentence, at least a little bit of sentence, so people will feel safe. But the way it is now, people just feel terribly unsafe with the police's reaction, the judgment handed down, and then the parents. No, this is not just really acceptable.
Quickly, Chooks, this is also seen in racial undertones, although the police says that's not the case. He just made that decision, and unfortunately it was fatal.
I don't blame those who are giving a racial undertone, but you know, the point must be made that the system always protects its own, and the police is an integral part of the system. You know, but we also employ our youngsters, you know, particularly blacks in the Western world. You know, when you have any problem with the police, you know, try to be on the side of the law, because if Kaba wasn't running away from police, you know, I pretty doubt if they'll have just shot him, because no policeman, except a deranged police officer, would just go about shooting people. You know, they say there's what you call cause and effect. You know, we should at all times try to be seen to be on the side of the law.
Quickly, Washington Post, in case you have the last word here. Trump, Harris, even in a New York poll, or new poll. When you look at what's going on in the elections, they're going to be going head-to-head. Recent polls suggest both of them are in a dead heat, mostly in battleground states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada. You know, it's not going to be easy for either side in Kitchen.
It's not going to be easy for either side, but you have Donald Trump pushing real hard, especially in North Carolina. You know, they just had that hurricane, devastating, just shaking up the voting space in that area. Now, Trump, who back in 2020 was against mail-in voting, he labeled it as fraudulent, now is pushing for that. Exactly. He's demanding that expanded early voting locations. Right. He's just trying to grab any vote at this point, including Kamala Harris as well.
Okay, I'm afraid that's all we can take for the paper review today.
It's just around the corner. We'll see how that election goes, but both sides are fighting to the nail. All right, thank you so much, Constance, for being here this morning. And of course, the ED of Authority newspaper, Chooks Akuna. I am Ndi Amogu, thanking you for watching. Next is The Morning Show.
And I am Nkechi Nana. Goodbye.